Thank you for joining us on Business News. Nigeria's trade with the rest of Africa increased by 40.8% year-on-year in the first half of 2023 to 1.83 trillion naira from 1.3 trillion naira recorded in the corresponding period of 2022. This represents a reversal in the declining trend of the nation's intra-Africa trade over the same period since 2020. In terms of value, National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's intra-Africa trade in first half of 2021 amounted to 1.47 trillion naira out of total foreign trade of 21.79 trillion naira and 1.67 trillion naira in the first half of 2020 out of 14.55 trillion naira total foreign trade recorded within the period. The Bureau on Nigeria's external trade data with the rest of Africa also indicates that the intra-Africa trade is gaining more ground against total foreign trade recorded by the country in the past 3 years. And our Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission is asking fintech operators in the country to adhere strictly to regulatory guidelines and partner with regulators in their operations for more global impact. The Commission's Executive Vice Chairman, Mr. Babatunde Irukera, made the call at a meeting with the operators. He said a partnership with regulators and policymakers will help increase the country's investment while disclosing that the country is capturing 40% of $2.7 billion in investment. Mr. Irukera said fintech is not just the present, it is the future. Fintech is transactional. It is the greatest instrument of financial inclusion. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has postponed the September version of its bi-monthly Monetary Policy Committee meeting indefinitely. The Apex Bank Director of Corporate Communications, Mr. Issa Abdulmomin, announced the postponement in a statement in Abuja. The meeting was earlier scheduled to hold on September 25 and September 26, 2023. The director in the statement said the new date will be communicated in due course. And why financial experts believe that the postponement might not be unconnected with the ongoing probe of the Apex Bank under the leadership of its suspended governor, Godwin Emefiele. It will be recalled that President Bola Tinubu recently approved the nomination of Mr. Olayemi Cardoso as the new governor of the CBN and nominated 4 new deputy governors for the Apex Bank. Away from there now, the world's second largest stock exchange, the National Association of Securities Dealer Automatic Quotation System, also known as NASDAQ, has acknowledged President Bola Tinubu's global push to aggressively attract foreign direct investment into Nigeria and invited him to ring the closing bell. The U.S. Chamber's bell ringing ceremony with President Tinubu taking place on the sidelines of the 70th section of the UN General Assembly symbolizes the significance of the economic ties between the United States and Nigeria.
The past is consistency in policy, lack of consistency, double taxation, unfriendly exchange rate environment, corrupt, not sure exchange rate, corrupt subsidy. That's where we are labeled perhaps one of the most corrupt cities in Africa. Those 2 items can make you sad.
Also in attendance were successful Nigerian industrial leads and public officials who shared their experiences and operational plans with the global investment community in line with the president's push for economic growth.
I know that there are issues, but with what is going on, we believe that a lot of the challenges will be over soon. We know we have a lot of a deficit as far as infrastructure, for example, is concerned. And there are a lot of companies that want to come and invest in Nigeria as far as infrastructure is concerned. Nigeria, as I keep saying, is endowed with huge potential and opportunities. So we're here, we are meeting with a lot of investors.
Many presidents in the past who come for hunger, but they don't pay this kind of attention to coming to a place like this. This is symbolic. It helps people know that our leader is ready for business. He supports business and will create the enabling environment for businesses to succeed. There's so much private global capital looking for the right investment destination. And this capital will go to where it's most welcomed. Seeing the president of Nigeria come to New York, come to NASA to ring the closing bell, says a lot. That is a man that is pro-business. We need a pro-business leadership to take Nigeria to the next level.
Since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu became president, for people who observe our capital markets, we have seen, market performance very strong. Investors have reacted very strongly to the policy changes that he has implemented. So today is really a celebration of some of that. And also, more importantly, to demonstrate to Mr. President that the capital markets are available to support a lot of his agenda. Everything from how do we drive deeper foreign exchange, to how do we improve government revenues, to how do we improve employment, for example, are all things that we think the capital markets can support on the agenda. And these are some of the things that we're looking to reinforce today.
On the global scene now, Japanese yen slipped today after the Bank of Japan stuck to ultra-easy monetary policy and made no changes to its outlook, while stocks and bonds were kept under pressure as investors hunkered down for U.S. interest rates to stay high. Japan's Nikkei had losses by 1% to trade 0.2% lower. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan touched a 10-month low before recovering to rise 0.4%, mostly driven by gains in Hong Kong and China. Chinese state media reports on a slide of regulatory measure to support business were welcomed by traders, who sent the Hang Seng and mainland China markets up about 0.6%. S&P 500 had dropped 1.6% overnight and was down 2.7% in a week, but were steady in Asia as European futures fell 0.6%. And now the Bank of Japan maintained ultra-low interest rate earlier today and a pledge to keep supporting the economy until inflation sustainably hit its 2% target, suggesting it was in no rush to phase out a massive stimulus program. As widely expected, the Bank of Japan maintained a 0.1% interest charged on financial institutions' excessive reserves packed with the central bank and a target for the 10-year government bond yield around 0%. The Bank of Japan's decision contrasts with those of U.S. and European central banks, which in recent meetings have signaled their resolve to keep borrowing costs high to rein in inflation.
We are not yet in a situation where we can see sustained and stable inflation of 2% accompanied by wage increases. So we will patiently continue with monetary easing under the current framework. After that, if we are in a position to achieve the goal, we will consider scrapping YCC and modifying the negative interest rate.
Away from there now, Europe's trade chief will push for Beijing for fewer restrictions on European business on a 4-day visit to China, when he can expect tough conversations over a planned EU investigation into electric car imports. Trade Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis will take part in a joint economic and trade dialogue, meet Chinese officials and European companies active in China, and deliver 2 speeches during his September 23 to 26 trip to Shanghai and Beijing. For the European Union, the visit is designed to renew dialogue with China after its COVID-19 closure, and as European Union wariness grows over Beijing's closer ties with Moscow following Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Dombrovskis will arrive just over a week after the European Union executive said it will investigate whether to impose punitive tariffs to protect European producers against cheaper Chinese electric vehicle imports. And China's craze over generative artificial intelligence has triggered a flurry of product announcements from startups and tech giants on an almost daily basis. But investors are warning a shakeout is imminent as cost and profit pressures grow, as tensions between Beijing and Washington have also weighed on the sector. The buzz is in China, first ignited by the success of OpenAI's ChatGPT almost a year ago, has given rise to what experts have described as a war of 100 models, as it and rivals from Baidu to Alibaba to Huawei promote their offerings. According to data, China now has at least 130 large language models, accounting for 40% of the global and just behind the United States' 50% share. However, investors and analysts say that most were yet to find viable business models, as they were too similar to each other and were now grappling with surging cost. And finally, crude oil prices rose today as concerns that a Russian ban on fuel export could tighten global supply outweighed fears that further U.S. interest rate hikes could dent demand, but they were still headed for their first weekly loss in 4 weeks. A U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose today to sell at $89.94 per barrel with an uptick of 0.35%. Brent crude futures also experienced an upward price review of 0.21% to settle at $93.50 per barrel. Morning Light recorded a downward price margin of 0.05% to sell at $96 per barrel. For the OPEC basket, crude oil dealers offer $95.82 per barrel with a price decline of 1.22%. Well, and that does it for business. Next up is Sports Wrap.